What's up, everybody? I just wanted to do a little video, something quick about putting blue LEDs in your clusters for your third generation RAMs. I've seen a lot of people have questions about this, and it's not hard to do, but if you're not comfortable getting into your cluster, it might seem daunting. Right here I've got my 04 and my 05 cluster, and this is what I'm swapping right now. First thing that I want to point out here is the one thing everybody asks is, what bulbs do you use? Well, for this you need 11 B 8.5D LED bulbs. I got mine from Super Bright LEDs, and one thing you do need to note, the most important thing, is this bulb down here that sits behind the remote keyless entry module. It needs to be cut, because if it's not cut like that, it'll interfere with the module and the module won't sit right. So that's the only real modification you have to do. And if you look at this one, you can see that I've cut it right to the point where the contacts end. I have not cut through contacts, but that's just where the contacts end. So you want to make this pretty easy on yourself. If you're just doing the bulbs, then there's nothing real complicated here you have to do. You unscrew this so you can take this off. It's going to make your life a lot easier, and that way you can just reach in here and pull the bulbs out. The other thing to note is LED bulbs will only work if the polarity is right. So if you put them in backwards, they won't come on, and you might think you've got a dead LED or something. So now you might be thinking, okay, so I put these bulbs in, then I put it back in my truck, go through all the trouble of plugging it in, getting my big arm back there, and it doesn't fit, and now you've got 2 or 3 bulbs that are in the wrong orientation. How do you make this easy on yourself? Go to the wreckers, find you a 3rd generation RAM, get in behind the cluster, and cut off a pigtail. I'll throw a pin-out chart up here. Try and figure out how to do this, but I'll throw a pin-out chart, not a pin-up. I mean, those are nice, but I'll throw a pin-out chart up here now, if I can. And that'll show you the pins. So you can see that all I've done here is basically taken every pin that has positive battery power to it and taken all the grounds. So when I plug this in and apply power to this and this, and I'll show you in a minute, your whole cluster will light up, and then you can change the bulbs easily enough and see if they're actually working. So let me get this hooked up here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm going to apologize right now. I know this is ghetto AF, but I just haven't got around to soldering these wires together, and I don't have to use this that often, so as long as it's hooked up anyway. So these are all taped off, they're not connected to anything, just the positives and the ground. Got them hooked up to my power supply set for 13 volts, 13 and a half I believe. So when you turn this on, let me see if I can turn this over here. And everything's unscrewed because I was messing around with some other stuff last night, so let's pretend this is all together and working normal. So I'll turn on my power supply and she'll come to life. So there, now you can see, take this cover off. And oh boy, be careful here, because these little fucking pegs down here, man, I've broken so many of these things. I broke one in my 05 cluster now that I've had to glue back on, and eventually I'll go through, and like my other video where I had to do the same thing and replace the overlay, I'll go through and do that again later on down the road. I thought there was some problem with this. There's not. I'm an idiot. That's all it equates to. Star of the show, Bentley, who has to be a cat. Okay, so anyway, there, so you can see she's powered up, and that's how you can tell that your lights are going to work. Thank you, Bentley, for gracing us with your presence. Okay, so let's get to changing the bulbs. Okay, so I got all the bulbs out of my 05. Theoretically, I'd put white dots on these. I believe that's all positive. So I don't know if that helps anybody determine the orientation here, if you can see that. But theoretically, if I just take this out, one of these bulbs here out, and if I put it back in the same orientation, it should work. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to take all these bulbs out and I'm going to put them back. I'm just going to like replace them in the same orientation, and then we'll fire it up and test it, and this should come to life and everything should work. Something else I want to point out here, sometimes these tabs on this don't exactly fit snug, so you may just have to bend them down a little bit to get them to grab. So that's just something else I wanted to mention. That's a thing that people have said happened. The lights don't come on. Well, you might just have to bend those tabs down just a little bit to get it to grip. Okay, I've got all my lights in. I just swapped them over and kept their orientation. Let's fire this up and see if I've got them all right. Before I do that, though, I want to absolutely emphasize, you do not need to take your cluster apart any further than just taking this back part off, because it makes life easier to get your fingers in there to change the bulbs. You do not need to take anything more than this off of your cluster to change your bulbs. What I'm about to show you, I had my cluster apart and the needles off for different reasons. I was testing some shit. Turned out I'm just an idiot and nothing is wrong. So you do not need to take the needles off. But I'm going to fire this up. And now, because I do have all the needles taken off of mine, I can lift this up right here and we can see the bulbs. And there I've got one. Well, they all look lit up except that one there, and that's flickering, so I know how to fix this. I think, anyway. I don't think the bulb is bad. Sorry about my camera fuckery here. I want to make sure I get this back in the right spot. I can't see what the hell I'm doing now. Oh, I got a fucking wire on it. There's your problem. Hang on, sorry guys. Hold on, bear with me here. Looking at my hairy leg. There. Okay, I'm gonna turn that off. I don't know, what's this one here? Yeah. Is that one? Yep, it's that one. Okay. This is one of the ones that's gonna need the tabs bent, I think. So I'll get to that, check it out, and be right back. Okay, so it turns out there actually is a problem with this bulb. There's something wrong with it. Now you gotta keep in mind though, when you buy these are made with the finest Chinese quality and all of the highest quality Chinese materials, parts, and workmanship. Luckily, I have some spares. So never order just what you need. Don't order 11 because you need 11. Order 15 because you need 11. So I'm going to get that bulb in there and then we'll get back to this. Alright, all the bulbs are lit and I'm ready to put it back together. One thing I didn't mention, and I'm not going to tackle in this video, so right now I'm not going to put this back together because I still got something else to do. Sometimes on things like this, and I have to try this, I just have to. Let me get this shit disconnected first. This will make this easier. Okay, so one thing I want to try here, right here, right there, does 4 little pads. They are for a fog lamp display to show if your fog lights are on, and it uses the same indicator. Where the hell did it go? Where am I looking at here? It uses the same indicator as this right here for your, I believe that's high beams, except it uses a green, no, hang on, well it uses that, but here we are, turn signal. As your turn signal, it uses the same LED. So I've got a junk cluster that I use for parts and testing and stuff, and I'm going to unsolder one of these bulbs, one of these LEDs, and I'm going to solder it in over here. Oh, what the hell's going on? Fucking zoom, man. And I'm going to solder it in over here. Now, I don't know if it's going to work, because these clusters are programmed like if your truck doesn't have certain features, these features won't be enabled on the board, and there's no way to enable it, really. Maybe getting it programmed at the dealer, I'm not sure. But I'm going to solder a bulb in there, and I'm going to see if that works. And if it does, great. Then when I turn my lights on, I'll have a display over here. If it doesn't, well, no harm, no foul. So that being said, that's done with this swap here. I got the lights in, and she's ready to be put back together. Lights are all in and working. I have even soldered a light onto there. It's not, I could have done better if I had a little hot air gun, but the LED works, and man, I feel bad showing that on camera how ugly that looks to me. But these are small, these are SMDs, man. So I don't know, we'll test if that works when I get it in the truck and turn on the fog lights. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, don't know. But at any rate, if it doesn't, it shouldn't affect anything being there. Now I'm going to do the film, which is why I've got this cluster apart, because this really makes life easy. Like, okay, so if you wanted to put the film in, you can slide it under this overlay here. I'll show you in a minute, but I've preferred to take the cluster apart so I can slip the film in there. And what I'm using here, I'll link this below, or do what I can. But what I want to show you about this, what I'm using is called conversion filters. And they don't just change the color to blue. What they do is they actually convert one color to a specific color. I'm not the greatest at explaining it. I'm no expert. I don't know a lot about this stuff. I just know that it's not like a typical filter. So, and I'll show you why I like this though, why I like the conversion filters. Because when I do this test here, what this will do is this will make the numbers and this stuff over here blue, but all this stuff that's yellow, like low wash, lamp out, tow haul, and serve four-wheel drive, that will stay orange. And I want that, because when this stuff is blue, it's really hard to see out on a bright sunny day and you're driving down the road, and I don't know, do you have a lamp out? Is your four-wheel drive on? Are you in tow haul? You know, you don't know, because you can't really see the damn thing in the bright light. So what I'll show you here, I'll do this cluster test and start it up, and now you can see it'll make the numbers blue, but it keeps all the rest stuff orange. And so it will show up nicely in the daytime, and you'll be able to see that stuff. So I'll get those filters in there, and then we'll get this put back together. But as you can see, like I've already got it cut, you just slide it in there, and it will kind of tuck under. Sorry about my camera work, guys. And it will kind of slide under in there. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'd like it to be perfect, but it doesn't have to be. And then the screens will hold that in place. So let me just get this set up, get back together. Just a little tip before I get this back together: when you're taking stuff like this apart and you've taken the screws out, because it's just plastic, if you screw it back in there, it's just gonna like chew up the thread again. So if you wanna make sure you go kind of back into where the threads already were, you turn it counterclockwise, right? Turn it the opposite way, and you will feel a spot. I already have twice now. You'll feel a spot where it kind of, there, like it clicks down, and that kind of seats it back in the thread, and then you turn it the right way, and it'll screw back in easy as butter, right into the threads that already existed. And then you won't run into any problems like destroying the threads in there. Okay, now that it's back together, you might be wondering how you put the needles on, because they're off. And where do they go? Well, the good thing about these clusters is when you've applied power and there's no signals coming in like this, you've got it on the bench like this, all of these gauges, they peg right to the far left. So all you have to do, I'm not going to turn it on right now. I can't do this with the camera, so I can't really show it on camera. I'm also, let's see if we can switch hands here. So all you have to do is very gently, when it's powered on. You know what? I'm going to turn the power on because somebody's going to think you can do this with the power off. So let it go through its cycle and do its thing. And all the gauges at this point, they will have pegged. So what you would do is you very carefully. You done now? Thank you. Very carefully, line it up there, and then just rest it. Just kind of gently push it on the peg, and push the needle back on like so. Now, to test that, I just spin it over here. I'll spin them all over there and do that, and then turn it on. And you should see it should peg, and it should be resting right on the peg. right on. And as you can see, this one is resting right on the peg. So I've got that one on perfectly. And this will work. For the speedo, this I cannot do on camera. Cannot do this accurately on camera. I need both hands and eyes and everything. For the speedo though, and the tack, what you want is that your needle's gonna, my hands are all shaky here, but your needle should basically, that should be centered. Like that, essentially. Should be right on there, as close as you can get. If it's a little bit higher, it's okay, because that's actually where it does sit when there's no power, or when there's power applied to this and no signal. So that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get all these needles back on here, and I'll show you the finished result. Okay, the needles are all on, and I've spun them into random positions. So when I fire this up, everything should sit nicely. Well, that one went backwards. That's okay. I'll show you how to fix this. Let's go up here. I'm sitting on the wrong side there. If you got it too far over this way, it'll want to spin around the other way. So I should set it about there, I think, and this should be okay now. I'll reset these again. So out of the way. So let's fire this up now. There we go. And I'm happy with where that's sitting. It might not look as even on camera, but I'm happy with those. These are all pegged. So I'm good with that. Now we can do this. I don't know if I can do this with one hand. I'll do the self-test here. Let me see if I can set up my camera. At least enough just to get this process started. Okay, so hold the button, turn on the ignition, let the button go. Now, yep, and you can see it's doing the test. It's going around. Everything's going to their pre-configured positions. Lights are on. I'll show you C codes, and there's probably going to be a lot right now because there's no signal going to the cluster. So about these C codes though, this is the code, and this is how many times it's happened since for every key cycle. So if I put this in the truck and then I turn my truck on, it'll show these codes, and it'll show 01. And then if I turn it off and turn it back on, it'll show 02. Or sometimes 04. Sometimes it skips and goes by 2s for some reason. And the only way to reset these, to get rid of them, is to fix whatever problem it is, and then wait until this goes around to 99. Once it reaches 100, it'll reset back to 0, and then the code will clear and go away if it's fixed. So I'm going to get this back together now, and we'll show the final result. I know I keep saying that, sorry. But yeah, we'll show the final result. Alright, got the cluster back in. And it's blue. I guess that fog light indicator doesn't work. I'm disappointed by that, but that's okay. No harm, no foul. A year down the road, I'll forget it was done. So I got the rest of this out. I was hooking up some other lights. But yeah, that's done.